DTalks, disruptive talks on foundational literacy and numeracy. And today we have a very special guest, and I would like to give the stage to our very own guest to introduce herself. Hello, ma'am.
Hi. Thank
So lovely
you.
to have you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Moon and Dignity Education. My name is Farsha. I am based in Indonesia and I am the founder of Arden Project. We are an education social enterprise that provides language and empowerment programs to lower income communities. And we are in Indonesia, but I'm originally from Singapore, and I have been doing a lot of education and development work in Southeast Asia in countries like Timor-Leste, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, and in Indonesia, we run, yes, language programs, empowerment programs, and we are also an education partner with Dignity Education. We are testing and using the Dignity Education's Alpha program for the literacy part of our education system.
Wow. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming and giving your time to us. It's truly an amazing privilege that we have to be sitting with you. I want to ask you a very important question since a lot of people are listening to you and they are not aware of who you are. So I want to know, who is Nur Hafisha beyond the LinkedIn title? There are people who work in education and then there are people who rebuild lives through education. Today's guests are very own from Cambodia, Indonesia, Miss Farsha ma'am. I want you to tell us, who is Farsha beyond this profession.
Beyond this profession, who am I? I am somebody who is quite adventurous,
Mm-hmm.
someone who likes to be friends with everyone. I love to challenge myself, and I like to constantly think of how I can be of help and service to others.
So
So
you
that's just me.
always, so you always had a heart for people that I want to help them.
Um, I think I kind of developed that when I was maybe older, as I was more exposed to social issues during my high school years and university years. I mean, I had to read a lot about what's happening in my region and, what's happening in other countries. And then
Right.
I was interested in I was just thinking about, like, why is my life stable and okay while another person's life is so unstable and um, unfortunate, right? So that is
Yeah.
why that's how the journey started, I suppose.
Was there any point in your life where, you know, it was a turning point for you where you started actually looking at these situations and you were like, okay, I had to do something about it. There's a problem.
Turning point in my life. Um, I was a history student in university.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was in the entrepreneurship society where I first learned the concept of social entrepreneurship. And I also met a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are in the development field when I was in university. And I also
Mm-hmm.
studied history, right? So I became more aware of the problems that are happening in the world. So slowly, I won't say that it was like one turning point, but it was slowly, it kind of like developed my view of life and my
Yeah.
purpose in life when when I met all these people and I was learning about history and society. And then after I graduated, I thought that if I was going to do something really crazy, I should do it now because I should really do it now because I don't have any commitments, right? I mean, I was 21
Yeah.
then, so I thought that, if I was going to go to like East Timor, if I was going to pack my life and do something really mad, I should do it now. So I guess I have not really changed ever since. So yeah. So yeah, that's me. That's that. I guess it wasn't like a one turning point. It was gradual, and then after that, decisions were made, and then yeah.
Yeah. You have worked across many countries, cultures, and education systems. And if I ask you honestly, what problem in the world emotionally disturbs you the most, even today?
I like this question actually. Um, and because now actually every day when I look at the news and when I look at when I live in Indonesia right now, so and I have always lived in like the global south or developing countries, so I always think about like why is there suffering, why are people going, why why are people in poverty, or they are in war, or or they have illnesses or sicknesses that just happen to them.
Yeah,
And like or sometimes I think also about like my own challenges and my own difficulties, right? So why does why does why do people suffer, or like why do some people suffer more than others?
yeah,
So, and then after that, I mean, like gradually I kind of realized that I think suffering is just, if there is no suffering there will not be any happiness. You wouldn't know the
very true.
difference, correct?
Right, correct.
And I think that suffering, challenges, and difficulties are just opportunities for individuals and communities to come together to solve it. And as a result of that, individuals or communities will grow because they see a problem, and they are going to try to solve the problem basically. So and so suffering is a way of growth. And I really think that difficulty and suffering is, I think that one person's suffering can be another person's light. And what do I mean by that? Okay, I mean, like, if if a person goes through your challenges or your difficulties, you may be you may be going it through today, but because you have already experienced it, you can
Yes,
empower someone
right,
else with it,
right.
right? Because you've been through it, the whole aspect of it. So I think so that's why I always think about, like, why are people suffering more than others. So this is, when you ask this question, I was like, yes, this is the thing that I won't say it disturbs me, but I think about it now. And now I think about it always because I see it a lot. Yeah.
Was there any defining moment in your life where you realized, I don't just want a career, I want to impact lives?
I think about purpose. I think that that a person's life cannot only be about survival. We
Right.
must, yes. I'm not saying that having material comforts is wrong, but if we limit ourselves only to that,
Yeah.
and we do not think about our purpose, we do not think about fulfillment, we do not think about the meaning of our lives, then chasing after material wealth will become empty.
Right.
Material wealth should just be a vehicle to other things in
Fulfill your
life that are
purpose.
yes, correct, that's more meaningful. So I think um I didn't just want to have a career, but have I wanted my life to be um about helping others, uplifting others, about impacting others, because we are created for a purpose, not just to eat and sleep, right? So yes.
That's true. I do agree. I do agree. I mean, there's what is the point of having everything and not having your purpose? I think having a purpose actually sets your tone. It gives you the direction. It
Yep.
makes your life meaningful, right? Yeah,
Yes, that's true.
right. Because right now you know your purpose. You know that I'm called to do all this. I am called to help others who are suffering. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because you have already seen things like you said that one person's suffering is a light to another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do agree with that. I do. And you could have easily chosen, although I know the answer to this question, but I still want to ask, you could have easily chosen a more corporate or comfortable path. Why education? Why social transformation?
Because you know what Nelson Mandela said, right? Education is the most powerful tool you can use to help change
Yeah.
society. So it's quite simple. It's just that, right? That's why I choose education, and I like it. I'm
Okay.
not into, and I mean, like, there are people. Um, I think I did quite well in school, so I didn't have a. I mean, when I was in school, I was quite a good student. So I like education, and my circle of friends are educators, and my mentors were educators, so it was just kind of like natural for me to choose education.
Hmm.
um I guess some people, their calling is in medicine, if they are medical doctor, or some are lawyers, or some are
Yeah.
just like, they are in missionary work, then that's their space. But for me, education has always the space has always been there, so I used it to I used it to my advantage.
Do you think this is not, we don't have this question here, but I want to ask you, do you think education plays a vital role in finding your purpose?
It depends on, you have to have the right kind of education. So there are two kinds of education. There's the material education and there's the human education, right?
Yeah.
Material education is very simple. It is hard skills for you to be able to get a job, have a roof over your head. But
Yeah.
when it comes to, but you also need human education. Human education is to know about uh, your purpose, about your life, about your society,
Right.
about how to about it's about developing your full human ability, about transformation, about different aspect of your well-being. So if you do not have human education, then you will be, I would say, quite limited, because you
Yeah.
have the material aspect, right? But you don't have the other aspect of like developing skills, like developing compassion, developing your confidence, developing your the ability to transform.
Yeah.
So education is very important. I think like all the world's religions came with a book, and there's a reason, there's a purpose for all those writings, right? So yeah, education is definitely the key to helping a person understand what is their purpose.
You work with governments and NGOs, communities, donors, and institutions who actually understands the grassroots educational realities the best. Who do you think?
Um, okay, so this is quite a broad question, right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And I would say, from my experience, I cannot give a black and white answer to this, because yeah, but then I cannot give a black and white answer to this, because I have met very good donors and donors that are not, I would say, not so informed. And I have worked in places where, the governments are strong, and I have worked in countries where the government, they're still developing themselves. There are still gaps.
Mhm.
Communities, maybe sometimes do not have they see a problem, but they don't have a vision. So I won't say uh, any party is anyone is better than the other. It's
Yeah.
just that, and I have met donors that understand the aspect of the wider aspect of education. I have worked in NGOs that really truly impact communities, and I have governments who are understand the macro aspect of education, and uh, they are trying to develop their country with the resources they have. So I mean, it's quite difficult to answer this question really, because there's no one person or one agency that actually knows what education is better.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you think the global education system is preparing children for life or just preparing them to survive exams?
I think that there is some kind of value in exams, right? Because some people do actually um, excel in academics, and it's kind of an easy way to, like, evaluate a person's ability because it's black and white. But I guess if there is too much focus in exams, of course it's very bad. um Education, I sorry, schools ideally should prepare kids for life, correct? They should prepare kids to be able to have hard skills, be entrepreneurs, be creative, be disciplined, have confidence. Um, what else? Be able to manage their finances, be able to be compassionate. But to have an education system that truly addresses those needs is not easy, right? Because
Hmm?
some education systems have limited resources, some education systems have more resources. So yes, schools should definitely prepare education schools and education should definitely prepare children for life. And but then if there's too much, and there is a place for exams, but I think that if there's too much concentration on that, then it defeats the purpose of education.
But do you think that they are doing it right now? Looking at the education system currently, do you think they are preparing them for just surviving the exams or for life?
I think it's probably more surviving exams, to be honest. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
answer you're looking for. But yes, surviving exams. I mean, like, because exams is black and white, right? So the problem is it's a score, and then the teachers can be measured. So by
Hmm.
the teachers can be measured by the kids' results and all that. So the whole education system, if is looking only at exams, then it is quite I would say limiting.
That answers my next question, but I would still ask you this.
Yeah. Okay.
If literacy was alone enough,
Mm-hmm.
the world would already be equal. So what is education still missing?
Literacy, the ability to read and write. Yes. But you need. I mean, like, of course, we need to have profession. I mean, literacy is one part of education.
Mhm.
But a person needs to be able to develop professional skills, and then they need to develop soft skills, emotional skills, mental skills. They
Yeah.
need to be able to become human beings who are principled, human beings who have foresight, human beings who who not only think about themselves but think about others. And like, with AI right now, you need to be able to I mean, with AI, there are a lot of new skills, yeah, that
Yeah.
we need to develop, right? We need to be able to be able to kind of like see what is whether this information is going to help me or not help me, or whether it's dangerous information. Um, we need to be able to yes, with AI as well, we need to be able to know how to learn by ourselves. We become independent learners. Yes. We cannot depend only on institutions, because society and economies and technology is just moving at a very fast rate. Yeah, so there are so many aspects of developing ourselves that we need, instead
Mhm.
of only literacy, instead of the ability to read and write.
What's more dangerous according to you? Lack of school, lack of teachers, or lack of belief in a child's potential?
Lack of teachers and lack of belief in a child's potential, because school is just a building, right? So you can actually study under the tree or like in a house. But if you have a teacher that do not believe in the potential of a child, then you cannot start
Right.
anything, right?
Right.
You cannot
I
start
agree.
anything. Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
you cannot start anything. So school is building is just is just a physical form. But when you need to have teachers, of course, who are able to teach and who are able to share their knowledge, and then they need to be able to have belief in the children's potential. So they give confidence to the kids to be
Yeah.
able that they are equal, they have potential, and they can develop themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And since you've shared that we need teachers who believe in the child, and it's the lack of teachers that are more dangerous. And you have worked across Southeast Asia and beyond. What common pattern do you see in children who are left behind?
Parental involvement, I would say.
Mm.
Never children who are left behind. Parents always think that you can you can subcontract a
Mm.
child's education, or you can outsource. Okay, the word is outsource your child's education to the
Yeah.
schools, or to some tuition agency. You cannot outsource it. All right. And we cannot have the excuse that, oh, I am not educated. A parent, I mean, like, you're not, I'm not educated, so it's very difficult for me to know what is happening in my child's education. I mean, I've had stories of parents who are illiterate, right? But they go and check with the teachers. They make sure that the kids do their homework, right?
Yeah.
They get and
Yeah.
they follow up on the child's progress, right?
Yeah.
And the child becomes successful. So you have, like, from rags to riches kind of story. And why is that? Is because the parents make sure that these kids have a good foundation in values. These kids, they want to know what is the kids progress. They make sure that, if the kids are out of line, they make sure they
Mm.
they the kids to come back in line. So I
Right.
feel that, and I know parents with all the resources as well, right?
Yeah.
And their kids are not doing well in school. It's why? Because they think that, outsourcing kids to schools is enough. No, actually, home and parents are number one, right? If you do not have, I mean, like, that if kids who come from dysfunctional families, they will have a lot of problems in school, right? But but then you have kids that come from poor families, and they actually make it in life, right? And
Yeah.
what is one common factor is, like, are the parents involved positively in the kids' education? Are they giving the support? And it is not in money. It's really not in money. It's making sure that the kids are doing what they're supposed to do in school, which is to study. Yeah. So that's the thing.
You have talked about your work with Devi Sansthan. You have talked
Yes.
about your involvement with the Alpha pedagogy. Could you talk more about it? Like, what do you think about this Alpha pedagogy? And can you share more about your work with Devi Sansthan?
So we have I when I saw the books, somebody sent me some of the books, e-copy. And I thought that it was a very revolutionary way of learning how to read, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
usually it is alphabet, sound, word.
Mm-hmm.
But for the alpha program, it is the other way around. It
Yeah.
is um, picture, sound, and then word, right?
Yes.
So it makes it very um, easy and fast
Yeah.
for children to learn. I got in touch with Dr. Gandhi, and Dr. Gandhi forwarded my contact to her team. And then after that, I learned more about the program, and we decided to use the program in our schools. We are so most of our students already can speak already can read, but what we have done with the alpha program is really to help them to um um well, they most of students can read, but they will read with the Indonesian accent, very heavy accent. So what the alpha program, how it has been useful for us is we have helped our students to read better. We
Mm-hmm.
have helped our students to expand their vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
expand their sentence structures, and we have been able to help our students read much more quickly. Instead of instead of how to say start stop fluently, there is more
Mm.
fluent. Okay, their reading is much more fluent. So that is what we have been doing, and we are using this program for students who are 7 years old and above.
Mm.
So we are still using it in our schools.
One powerful thing about alpha pedagogy is the peer learning, where the student is the teacher. They become teacher themselves. Do you think education becomes more sustainable when communities start owning learning instead of depending on institutions?
I think that it has, yes, I think that definitely. Um, just now I used the word outsource, right? You cannot really outsource education to institutions. Institutions are there, they have a purpose. They have to provide the curriculums, they have to provide the teachers, the
Mm-hmm.
workers.
Yeah.
They have to kind of like provide a framework. But if communities don't own learning, then it then education doesn't become as effective, I would
Mm.
say, right? It requires a partnership.
Right.
The community needs to know, um, and I think that the community is has to play an active role,
Mm-hmm.
because they can also give feedback as to what institutions should focus on, right? Or they can give a feedback to what institutions should do. What are the gaps? What are the potential? Right?
Mm-hmm.
They can work together. Okay, they can work together. So I think that um, yes, peer learning, both institutions and community. Um, Both the community and institutions must work together to make education more powerful.
Right, right. What excites you more? Innovative pedagogy, scalable community models, or the dignity that literacy brings to a family?
I would say what excites me more. I think
Yeah.
everything is important, but what excites me more
But
is scalable model.
if you have to
Oh,
scale one, two,
yeah.
three,
What was it? Scalable model or dignity or
innovative pedagogy, scalable community models, or the dignity that literacy brings to a family?
I would say scalable models.
Number
Yes,
one.
number one.
Right.
And
Number
then
two,
number two would be dignity. Number three would be um,
pedagogy.
pedagogy. Yes,
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's not easy. The number three, because you ask me, right, what excites me most. Pedagogy is not it's very technical,
Yeah.
and it's very it takes a lot of work. So
Mm.
and it takes a lot of work, so it's very important. But yeah, in terms of excitement, I would put it at number three. Yes. Okay.
Can education genuinely break generational poverty?
No, it depends on how you understand education and how a person's how the kind of education that a person has gone through. I think material education, book
Hmm.
education is not enough, right? You need
Education
to
is
know,
not.
yeah, yes. If it's just like book education, it's not enough.
Hmm.
You have to know how. There's so many aspects of education, right? As I mentioned earlier,
Yes.
we need to be able to be street smart. We need to be able to be we need to know
Updated.
ourselves. We need to be
Yeah.
able to know how to we need to be able to have we need to know how to socialize or be friends, network, work together.
Yes.
We
Soft
need to be
skill.
able to we need to know what is right and wrong, live by principles
Son.
and values.
Right.
And one more thing I think is I feel that it's kind of like touch and go in many education systems, but I really believe in this. I really believe, and that's why I am doing whatever I am doing. I really believe in giving back. I would say spiritual education. I think in
Hmm.
some societies is kind of like a airy fairy kind of like word, but I feel that spiritual education is very important. The ability to help others, the ability to make a difference in another person's life, because uh what what goes around comes around. I always train my teachers and I always tell them, you have to find opportunities to be able to be of service to others,
Yeah.
because you might not need the blessings now, but when you need it, it will be there for you. Because if you uplift others, your life will be uplifted. So this is
Yeah.
what I think that and I really drill this, I really pump this, I really so I think that if I mean, like, just imagine if you have 1 million people with this kind of mentality, the world will be a revolution, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of thinking about ourselves, we think about ourselves, we think about our family, we think about others. So I feel that you cannot break generational poverty if you only um,
Have education.
have hard skills or have
Yeah.
education to provide for yourselves. But have if you understand that there's so many different aspects, emotional, mental, spiritual,
Yeah.
you need to be able to know how to transform yourself. You need to have agency, so all these things. So um then education can truly help a person um break out of generational
Poverty.
poverty.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And what changes first when a person becomes literate? Is it income, confidence, identity, or dignity?
I think when they become literate, confidence,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Um, and then dignity, confidence,
Mm-hmm.
dignity. I can do something, and then after that, maybe income much later in life, but definitely confidence and dignity, and then after that, then income.
And what about identity?
Identity. Oh, okay. I think identity and dignity is confidence, identity, dignity.
Goes together.
Yeah. So this goes together. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And then after that, income much later on, right? So, because
Hmm.
sometimes, yeah.
What kind of leadership does the education sector desperately need right now?
Um, I worked with I'm just gonna quote
Hmm.
my mentor, right? Uh, a great teacher educates, a normal teacher evaluates. Okay, I'll
That,
repeat. All right. A great teacher
please
educates, and then a normal teacher evaluates. What does it
evaluate.
mean? Yeah, evaluates. Okay, you are good, you are not good. This is just who you are, and we are just going to continue our lessons. Or
Hmm.
lesson. That is not. It's just a normal teacher, but we need great teachers. Great teachers truly understands the need of a
Okay.
child, understand the capacity,
Yeah.
understand their capacity, and find all the ways possible.
Hmm.
Okay, whether it is through friendships, or whether it is through having more creative classes,
Hmm.
okay, or whether it's through just sitting down one to one, giving more support, right? That is education. So yes, when you ask me that question, a great teacher educates, a normal teacher evaluates.
That's beautiful. I do agree. I do agree. We need teacher. We need great teachers. We don't need just normal teacher.
That's right.
Yeah. Many companies want to create the impact but struggle to find scalable, measurable models. And I know you have interacted with many development agencies, foundations that impact networks globally. So, what do you think corporates are actually looking for in education partnerships today?
I think that if you are dealing on that level, they usually want good governance, right? Good financial reporting, good monitoring and evaluation,
Hmm.
good impact. I mean, good impact reporting and all that. But I would caution corporates to not only. First of all, I would caution corporations to not only work with organizations that have kind of like good governance on paper, but actually when it comes to the real impact and real work, it is not as how it's reflected on paper. Number one. Number
Hmm.
two, I would also caution corporations to work with organizations in terms perhaps in terms of their governance and administration, it is not as strong, but they are clearly uh, creating impact. They are It's a scalable model. They are they have a very strong team, got a strong leader who is creating a movement. So sometimes they do not have strong governance because of maybe culture or resources, and you can implement that, right? When you start having a project with that particular organization, you can request for an audit, or you can have a due diligence, you can request for an audit, or you can request having you can put in place, you can support them in having better reporting systems, so you know what is happening, right?
Hmm.
So corporations usually want good governance when they want to partner with an education organization, which is fair, right? But we need to be cautionary for two things. One is make sure that everything that is on paper is also realistic, real on the ground, and it doesn't mean that maybe on paper they are not as good. Maybe the governance is not as strong, but they are creating a lot of impact. So what needs to be done is the corporation should in their discussions, discuss how can the organization have better governance and provide support for that.
Okay. What makes grassroots initiatives powerful enough to deserve global attention?
They have they global attention. They have a very strong scalable model, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Grassroots
Mm-hmm.
initiative, right? Okay. Education, okay, so they have good pedagogies, good curriculums,
Mm-hmm.
very thoroughly researched, right? Thoroughly researched curriculums, pedagogies, very accessible to communities, and very receptive to communities. Um, and it's scalable and it's sustainable. I think that's very important. Sustainability. How can they have a model where it can sustain itself without a lot of funding.
Do you?
So
Mhm.
yeah,
So scalability, sustainability, yes, and government models,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the future belongs to the organization that merely runs programs or to those that build movements?
Build movements, because you will build movement and you change the culture, right?
Mm,
You change
that's
the
right.
focus, you change the culture. So you have to build movements, not only run programs.
Hmm. Let's let's have a rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you some questions and you have to answer fast. Okay? Are
Very
you
fast.
ready?
Okay. Yes.
Yes, very fast. Faster than how you answer. I know you already answer very fast, but I want you to answer this with a lightning speed. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah. Ready.
All right. One education myth you want to destroy forever.
Uh, if you do well in school, you will do well in life.
If you do well in school, you will do well in life.
That's
Okay.
a myth, really.
Okay. One country whose education innovation inspires you.
I would say my own country, Singapore. I guess I'm
Okay.
biased. I know that countries in Scandinavia are quite good, but I don't have any experience, so I really can't say. But yeah, Singapore is quite good.
Books or lived experiences, which teaches
Live,
more?
lived, live experiences.
Lived experiences. One thing every child deserves, regardless of background.
Uh, Access to quality education. Quality education.
Mhm. If you had unlimited resources for one education mission, what would you build?
I would have 100 of my education centers across the 17,000 islands of Indonesia.
Well, and we come to the end of the rapid fire round.
Okay.
So I know you are into history. You shared with us that you were an history student, right?
Mhm.
And when history looks back 50 years from now, what kind of educational legacy would you want humanity to remember?
I was somebody who gave dignity and hope. Not I,
Dignity.
my team and I would give are people who give the organization give dignity and hope to many.
And what gives you dignity and hope despite all the inequalities we still see right now?
What gives me hope? Okay, what gives despite because I see actually there are a lot of people who are trying to create change. I'm in this field and I know a lot of people who are passionate, who are still uh, trying to uh, uplift others.
Mhm.
So that gives me hope for a better future.
So uplifting others gives you hope.
Yeah. uplifting
Wonderful.
others, and I have a lot of people who are also doing it. So yeah.
And finally, if there is one message you'd like to leave for educators, change makers, policy makers, philanthropists, and young leaders watching you and listening to you right now, what would it be? And even the people who would watch this live later on, what the message would be.
What you do right now matters, even
Mhm.
if you do not see any immediate results. So what you do matters.
Could you could you explain that more?
Because education is a long-term investment, right? It's
Right.
not a short-term investment. So the results that you will see is not right now, but the actions, all the small actions that you are doing, you will see in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? So what you are doing right now is as if you are like a great teacher, right? As if you understand very clearly about what is education, and um, you want to become a great teacher and you are passionate about it. So what you are doing to empower the lives of many right now, maybe right now you don't really see any immediate positive results, but if you continue, you
Yeah.
pull through and you do it, you will see it after maybe 1 or maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think we had a really wonderful discussion with you. Thank you so much. And anything else that you would want people to say to our audience before we go off?
Before we finish,
Yes.
thank you so much for having me, of course. And what do I want to say? Anything that I want to say to your audience? Believe in yourself, uh, and believe in others.
Believe in yourself and believe in others. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, ma'am, for joining us. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We don't take it for granted. We truly love talking to you, and we are looking forward to see you again on the podcast.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.